Hey guys, John here from Bring the SEO. Today I want to share with you a conversation I had with someone yesterday, agency owner based overseas, who was expressing his frustrations dealing with clients, impatient clients. In other words, clients who want results quickly. And as we all know, for those of us working in the SEO industry, this is fairly typical. And I'm not sure I understand the problem here, because in some cases you'll find that you'll get on a call with a prospect and they'll say, we understand that SEO takes time. But in other situations, you'll find that you'll get on a call with a client and they'll say, we've got to have results within 2 or 3 months. And I'm not sure where the problem lies. It's obviously a lack of understanding on the part of business owners. Perhaps, I don't know. Whatever the case, it's fairly typical for those of us, like I said, it's fairly typical to come across clients who are quite impatient. And when you're dealing with clients that have unrealistic expectations around how quickly we're able to achieve outcomes, that can cause all sorts of problems. And this is why I decided to cover this topic today. So, and this is certainly nothing new. I've experienced this myself, and I know a lot of my students have experienced the same. And I'm going to share with you a couple of things that you need to take into consideration when you're either dealing with this problem or have experienced it in the past and you'd like to potentially prevent it. So I've scribbled down some notes here. I'll go through these notes real quick. But firstly, you've got to pre-qualify better. You need to improve your efforts around who you choose to work with. Now, I know this in itself can be a lengthy conversation. We don't have, this is fairly typical for what I hear. We don't have the luxury of being able to pick and choose who we work with. Well, then if that's the case, you don't have a sales problem, you have a lead, you have a marketing problem. And that's that's a topic for another time. But you need to pre-qualify better. In other words, be more selective about who you work with. Now, you should have processes in place to be able to say, okay, this right here, whether you put a list together and you map out the criteria, this right here is what an ideal client should look like. They need to meet this criteria in order for them to work with us. Right? Now, if you're just saying yes to everyone for anything, then you're going to have all sorts of problems. But pre-qualifying, you've got to do better in this area. Anyone who has unrealistic expectations around outcome, that is, hey, if we don't get results, or if we don't see results in 3 months, we're going to cancel. Those people should be an immediate no. So point one, pre-qualify better. And of course, those who have, understand, hey, we understand that SEO takes time. We understand that marketing and business is hard and it's going to take time. We're in this for the long game. Then those people are probably more ideal clients that you want to work with. Now, the other thing that I've written down here, and I'm not sure, I've got to be careful with my words here, but because you don't want to I'll just read out what I've written down. Help clients understand, how SEO works and the metrics that should be measured during initial conversation. And I mention this because the definition of results in the SEO industry is broken. And I've been saying this for years, right? If you've got someone on a call, a prospect, and they're saying, we've got to have results within, 2 or 3 months, like I said, well, then the definition of results needs to be more clearly defined. And results should not mean we need to be page 1 for this keyword. Results should mean conversions and revenue, sales, bookings, appointments, customer inquiries, anything that affects the bottom line. And look, I could probably sum it up by saying this, and I've been saying this for probably close to 10 years now. Revenue, not rankings. Run your SEO campaigns the same way as you would a PPC campaign, right? You don't sit down with a client at the end of the month and have them ask you, John, this month we spent $30,000 in Google Ads, what was our return on ad spend? Who cares about that, Karen? All of our ads are on the first page. You just wouldn't do it. So the focus must be revenue. Focus on that as opposed to rankings. Because as we all know, it takes time. A lot of, especially around highly competitive terms in competitive industries, it can take time to get to achieve those rankings. And I don't want to get into the whole rankings, revenue. You need to be on first page before you can generate revenue and all that sort of nonsense. I'll cover that in another video. But help the clients understand. Help the clients understand where the focus should lie during that initial conversation. And as I said just a moment ago, I want to be careful with my words here because you don't want to get into a situation where you're on a call with a prospect and you're trying to educate them about SEO and how it works. Yes, that conversation can take place, but it should be brief enough and quick enough so that you can move through the sales process quickly. If you're in a situation where you have to try and explain SEO, what it is and how it works and how long it's going to take, then I'm not sure that's ideal. And that's not to say that you shouldn't do it, but I think that tied in with having to try and pacify someone around, how long SEO may take in order to see results, then if you combine those two things, then that could lead to problems. Of course, there's other varying factors that you need to take into consideration as well. So the definition of results needs to change. Now, the other thing, and I'll wrap this video up by saying this, and this is something that I shared with this person when we spoke. I said, most sites have a conversion issue, not a traffic issue. Right now, this is tremendously important because unlike trying to rank a site first page in Google, let's say around a highly competitive term that might take 4 to 5 months, conversion rate optimization, increasing the performance of a website can be done literally in a matter of sometimes minutes. Let me give you an example. I worked with a large-scale company many years ago. They were doing about $10 million a year. And they came to me and said, John, our goals and objectives are simple. Our goals and objectives are simple. We want to get to 400 customer inquiries a month within 6 months. And at the time, there were like 150 customer inquiries. Right? Now, I set up tracking everywhere. Call tracking. I was tracking all web form inquiries and everything else, as well as heat map tracking. And it was the heat map tracking that gave things away. In and amongst that, those site changes, when I say site changes, I implemented strong calls to action, made the phone number big, I implemented call tracking, I implemented inquiry forms on every single page. So every single page became essentially a landing page, and I had the ability to capture the person's details. In addition to that, I removed all of the distractions. So non-trackable phone numbers, naked email addresses, or anything else that was positioned near those calls to action. Now, those changes tied in with my tracking and everything else made an immediate change. And it took them from 150 customer inquiries to 300. It doubled the number of customers they were attracting within the first month. And that was achievable without wasting months on trying to rank them, doing SEO, link building. I didn't waste time with any of that. And this brings me back to my point, right? Because the client said, wait a minute, we're getting like 300, 350 customer inquiries. What on earth did you do? He went on to say that he'd wasted time working with several other agencies that, were mucking around for 12 months before they actually achieved anything. And I said, I just made some changes to the site. And this brings me back to my whole point, right? Most sites have a conversion problem, not a traffic problem. Now, this all ties in together. You should be tracking the metrics that matter, which are customer inquiries, phone calls, sales and revenue. You want to do everything within your power to make that happen. And the only way you can do that quickly is by improving the conversion rates of the performance of the actual website itself. It's much, much quicker. Look, you can make a change on a site that takes minutes that can potentially double the amount of customer inquiries or sales coming through, as opposed to wasting months trying to rank them in Google. So that's something that, I've been talking about this at length, and that's something that I remind students about when they work with me. Now, a good way to do that, you might be saying, okay, well, that's all well and good, John, but should SEOs care about conversion rate optimization and CRO? Well, that's a topic for another conversation. Absolutely they should, because if you're just throwing a report at a client and saying, hey, we're first page for fluffy bunnies, well, that doesn't mean anything, especially if the site's converting at 0.2%. That's nonsense. Now, a great solution that will help you achieve these sorts of outcomes is exactly what I teach in the training. Niche down, specialize, work in one industry, and start implementing pre-built niche-specific templates where the damn thing's going to be converting, anywhere between 5 and 10%. And instead of wasting the first 6 months mucking around on broken websites, doing all of this nonsense, and the client becoming frustrated, implement a pre-built template where it's going to literally double or triple the conversions. That in itself is another topic, another conversation, another topic for another time. But anyway, I hope you've got value out of this. Like I said, this is a common frustration for a lot of SEO consultants dealing with clients who have unrealistic expectations around outcomes. Change the definitions. Change the definition of results. Focus on revenue, not rankings. And start thinking about the performance of the website and what you can do to make better use of the traffic the client already has, rather than try to jam more traffic at it. Hope you found this useful. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.